Hi, I've never made a video before like this. Um, I wanted to make a video about ADHD, and I know there's a lot of videos out there about ADHD already. A lot of them have been really helpful to me so far, but I kind of feel like I have something to add to the conversation. So I wanted to make this so that people like me who tried to look for this information as I did would have somewhere to find it, and hopefully I can help people. Basically, this came about, I was very recently diagnosed. So I was diagnosed in, I think it was October. I had a long period of time leading up to that. I'm not going to go into the process of diagnosis because there are a lot of videos out there that sort of detail that and go into what that process looks like. So I'm not going to add to that conversation because I feel like there's already a lot of information out there about that. What I want to talk about is the aftermath of being diagnosed and how things have been for me these last few weeks. I'm going to start with the very immediate aftermath of finding out this diagnosis. So, as I said, I had this process of leading up to this where a lot of the content that I saw online, it led me to understand more about the condition and think, wait, hang on a second, this is definitely me. I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, and I think the way ADHD was presented to people at that time was that it was a disorder that affected boys. It manifested itself in hyperactive behaviour, bouncing around, bouncing off the walls, being naughty. That was really the only concept that I had of it. And I think probably true of most of the adults around me. Didn't really know what it was. They saw it as something that they just heard some people saying, oh, he has ADHD, he should be checked for ADHD, things like that. So there wasn't a lot of knowledge around this, and it has taken this long in my life. I'm 38 years old, and it's taken this amount of time for me to go, hang on a second, I think I have this, and now it turns out I do have this. So that's the kind of context I'm working with here, and I think that is what I was looking for when I received my diagnosis. I'm coming at it from a perspective of someone who is being diagnosed later in life and has lived their whole life not knowing that they have this. So that is my context for this. So the day of the assessment, I met with the psychiatrist. We discussed a bunch of things about me, about my life, about areas that I struggle with, areas that I've always struggled with, the factors that led me to look into this. He asked me to clarify some of the stuff that I'd put in the notes in previous assessment stages, which I did. And then very soon I'm at the end of this session with the psychiatrist, and I've just gone over a lot of my life. I've gone over a lot of the difficult things in my life. I've, talked about a lot of my struggles. And then the psychiatrist says, okay, so we're done here now, and I think it's safe to say that you have ADHD, in my professional opinion. Like, you are clearly struggling and you clearly have this. And I was like, right, okay. And so those immediate moments afterwards, I'd seen a lot of people talking about how they felt euphoric, how they felt like all the missing piece of what they've been looking for had fallen into place. happiness, just this great sense of unburdening, like their life now made sense. And I didn't feel any of that. I was just left kind of reeling from this information when the psychiatrist told me, because obviously I was pretty certain that there was a high chance that I do, but still having it confirmed, I was just like, oh, okay, I don't know what to feel right now. And super quickly after that, in the same conversation, like literally not even 2 minutes later, the psychiatrist is like, so what do you think you'd want to do for treatment options? And I'm like, do you want to kind of maybe tell me what the treatment options are so I can make an informed decision? I'm still like reeling from you telling me that I have this, and I'm being sort of asked to give an opinion on treatment options. So that was a bit of a head. Can I say head fuck? I'm gonna say head fuck. And it was just like, I don't know what treatment I want. And then he detailed, you can go on like, kind of, oh, what's the term? The term's gone out my head. Stimulant. You can either have stimulant treatment or you can have non-stimulant treatment. So he kind of detailed a little bit about that, but obviously, like, this was in like a minute or so that he told me about this, and I'm like, I don't know, I guess the stimulants, I don't know. And he's like, yeah, a good choice. And I'm like, is it? I have no idea what's going on right now. So yeah, so this happened, and then the call ended, and I'm just there like, okay, what now? He spoke to me about treatment options. He spoke to me about like what the process along the way would be for me getting on medication and things, and that's a long process as well. Like everything, that's a long process. That's going to take a good while to sort out, and they monitor you all the way through it to make sure that you end up on the right treatment. But yeah, I got off this call, and I was just like, okay, what now? And a number of things happened that made me confused me, I guess. And they were not this feeling of relief. They were not this feeling of happiness. They were far from that. And one of the first things I did then was go online and look for other people talking about this. And I didn't find that many videos where people were talking about this side of things. I found a lot of kind of positive videos talking about feeling relieved, feeling like everything made sense, how ADHD is a superpower, this kind of thing, and I didn't feel any of that. So that's why I want to make this video. So the things that I felt. Firstly, what interested me was I told my partner, I wanted to tell him. He knew I was going through the process. He was the first person that I told. I wanted to let him know what had happened, and we kind of knew this, and yeah, I told him, and that was fine. The interesting thing for me was that in terms of telling other people, I found myself with a great deal of hesitation and concern. So my friends knew I was going through this process, my family knew, but I didn't want to tell anybody. Like, I very much did not want to discuss this with anybody. And the fear that I was having, the reason I felt this, it was fear driven. And the reasoning behind it was they are now going to see me in a different light. This is going to change the way that they see me. They'll falsely attribute things to this condition. They'll judge me for this condition. They'll think less of me for this condition. Lots of feeling that they'll misunderstand. lots of feelings like that, and lots of real fearful feelings like that, of like, I guess, discrimination, I guess, misunderstanding, I guess, you know, judgment. And that surprised me because I have really supportive friends and supportive family, and I don't think that any of them would do that, but I felt a real sense of concern around that. So I decided not to tell anyone for a while. The other things that I felt, one of the other things I felt was, no, it's not true. So now I've just been through this extensive process of having this diagnosis. I've sat with someone who is literally an expert in ADHD, who has deemed categorically that I have this, and I'm like, no, that's not me. I'm just shit. And see, this comes into me being an older person receiving this diagnosis, and this comes into how I have viewed my whole life, and it comes into the third thing that I felt. So there's this dose of me going, no, not me though. I should be better. I should be able to beat this. I should be able to do all the things. And now where this comes from is me finding out that I have this condition turns my entire world upside down. Like, I've lived 38 years of life, and I have looked at myself in a certain way for 38 years of my life. And I have given myself so much shit for the person that I am throughout my life, and the things that I've been bad at, the things that I've been sad that I haven't done a better job at, the things that I struggle with. I've given myself so much shit. And so trying to then reframe that's been a process, and that is something like that I have worked on these last few months, which I will talk about at a different point. But the initial response was no. And I think it was denial, because then that would mean that I had to reframe my entire life and my entire being and face the fact that I have given myself such a hard time and so much stress for something that I actually had no control over. Yeah. So that was the second thing, denial. Third thing was, as the evening went on, I developed this massive sense of grief, I'm going to call it. It was as this stuff started swirling around in my head, this denial, but also me going, well, no, because this is true, this expert's just told you this. As I start to come to terms with that, the reality of it kicked in, that I have had 38 years of my life where it's been incredibly difficult and incredibly confusing. And that's a lot to take. Like, this has affected me in so many ways in my life, in so many ways. Like, and I think this is the difference between being diagnosed maybe when you're younger and when you're older. You know, if you're younger, you've still got plenty of time to give yourself a break and kind of live, understanding this, and kind of use that to your advantage now that you understand the way that your brain works. But when I've had 38 years of it, where all I've done is give myself shit and give myself such a hard time, yeah, that's a lot. That is a lot, like, to deal with. All the situations that have happened that have caused me extreme stress and difficulty, work, relationships, personal goals, personal life, family, opportunities I've missed, opportunities I haven't taken. The amount of ways that this has affected me is like ridiculous. It's not even really quantifiable how much this has affected me, not having this diagnosis, not knowing that this was what was going on with me. And so that very quickly started to set in that evening where I started to feel like, what the fuck? Like, how do I process this? How do I begin to repair this and reframe a whole lifetime of reinforcing ideas about myself that actually turns out aren't true? So, yes, they were the three feelings that I had. There was no euphoria, there was no joy, there was no, oh, yay, I've got ADHD, what a superpower. Like, no, I didn't have any of that. And I struggled because when I looked this up, I didn't actually find that many resources with people talking about this side of things. And that made me feel very alone. Like, I've already lived a life feeling confused and alone, having battled through without knowing that I had this. And then the feelings that I felt after diagnosis, I was also like, well, now I just feel still confused and alone. So I wanted to make this video in case anybody else goes through this process later in life, like me, and is looking for someone to say that they understand how they feel and that it isn't the easiest thing to process, you know, when you are an older person and when you kind of have lived a whole life in a certain way. So yeah, that is the point of this video. It's not all like doom and gloom because, as I said, I'm a few months in now and things have changed a lot, and I'm going to make another video about that. And my life has already changed like dramatically. So yeah, I just wanted to put this out there though about the immediate aftermath of diagnosis and how, you know, people feel different things. So yeah, thank you.